So, the apparent actual causes of atherosclerosis are hypertensive, in other words, high blood pressure, because we spoke earlier about that. We need high blood pressure. We need to be able to drive that cholesterol into those gap junctions. So hypertensive and other damage and inflammation to the epithelial cells. Okay, so examples I've just been talking about. Too much carbohydrate, too much healthy heart oil, not enough healthy saturated fats, smoking, either insufficient or too much exercise or inappropriate exercise modality, smoking, drinking, you name it, all those kind of things that can have an effect on our level of systemic inflammation. Hey, even environmental toxins and poisons that float around, pollution and those kind of problems can have an effect. Another possible cause of damaged epithelial cells can be viral or bacterial damage. Again, so that it may well be that. So as I said before, when you've got an occlusion in or a blockage in an artery inside the heart, that's what we call a heart attack. If it's in the brain, that's one of the various forms of stroke, those kind of things. So that's just a graphical demonstration of that for you, really, for what it's worth. Okay, so probably everybody that's been alive any time in the last 20-30 years at least has heard that saturated fat will clog your arteries. Well, no, it won't, because we've already had a look at what's in these plaques and there's hardly any saturated fat there at all. And that if you eat saturated fat, you're asking for heart disease, and you need to replace that with all sorts of healthy whole grains, which is an absolute load of nonsense, because it's the whole grains and the avoidance of saturated fat that's driving the inflammation that's causing the heart disease in the first place. But here's a meta-analysis, which is a synthesis of a bunch of studies done previous to this study. And what these authors have done, they've used a thing called a meta-analysis, which is a statistical slice and dice methodology, which allows them to put the results of a bunch of different studies together and make a much bigger study, which has obviously much more statistical power and is therefore much more reliable. And what they did is they had a look at the association between the amount of saturated fat in the diet and deaths from either coronary heart disease or cerebrovascular disease, so strokes and heart attacks, basically. The things that they tell us saturated fat will predispose us for. Okay, so what they've got there, if we look under results, is that they have followed a total of 347,747 subjects over a number of years, which gives us a number of person years of follow-up in the sort of hundreds of thousands. So we've got this huge sample size there, really. And what they have concluded is that this meta-analysis of prospective epidemiologic studies showed that there is no significant evidence for concluding that dietary saturated fat is associated with an increased risk of coronary heart disease or cerebrovascular disease. Okay, there is no evidence that people who eat more saturated fat have more health problems of this kind. Okay, so it's an idea that's had its time. It's an idea that needs to go. Okay, the avoidance of saturated fat is not indicated. It should not be done, because there is significant evidence to say that the stuff we're replacing the saturated fat with in our diets is causing us a problem, and they are carbohydrates and most notably polyunsaturated fatty acids. Having said that about this study here, this was a 2010 study, there's a thing called publication bias. And what publication bias is that in science there's this ridiculous idea that if something is 95% likely to be a real thing statistically, we publish it, and if it's 94.9% likely to be a real thing, we ignore it and say it's not real. So it's a threshold test. Bigger and bigger and bigger studies have more and more and more probability of being published because they are bigger studies and have more power. Smaller and smaller studies have less likelihood of getting published, especially if they don't find 95% probability one way or the other, and so they end up in someone's bottom drawer, never to be seen. So what does that look like? Let's analyze the data that comes from this study that I'm talking about here. You get this thing called a funnel plot. Sometimes it's called other things. I like to call it a funnel plot. And it plots the results of all the different studies that have been used in the synthesis of this overall meta-analysis. The further up this triangle shape that you go, the smaller the error of that study is statistically, because they are bigger studies. They have larger sample sizes, more people involved in those studies. There's a thing called a standard error of a finding, and the standard error is the standard deviation of everybody in that study divided by the square root of the number of people that are in that study. So what that says is the bigger your study is, the more likely it is to be representative of the real world finding in terms of that particular observation. So you go lower down and you'll find that studies will splay out further and further away from the 1 risk ratio, which means there's no change in risk. But often what you find in these studies is exactly what we find here, and if you look at the bottom left hand of that funnel plot, you'll see that there's no studies in there. What that means is that only the smaller studies that did find a 95% this is a real thing, and yes, saturated fat was associated with more heart disease and more cerebrovascular disease, they're the ones that got published. They're the ones that didn't end up in someone's bottom drawer. So what they do is they actually tend to drag the end result of the study, which in this case was around about 1, no change in risk. It tends to drag it to the right. In other words, towards this study being more likely to find that saturated fat was associated with increased risk than is the real situation. I hope that was understandable. What I'm saying is this study found there was no increased risk, despite the fact that it was always biased towards finding that there was a risk. So in fact, while it says there's no risk, what I'm suggesting is that there is actually a possibility that eating more saturated fat and less other stuff is actually cardioprotective. More studies need to be done. Okay, so again, atherosclerosis has been blamed largely for many years now on cholesterol, and mainly they've now said, it's actually the low density cholesterol that's the problem. Yep, okay, well, what are we looking at here? We are looking at a chart which shows the blood cholesterol level in the top one, the red histogram. This is the blood low density low density lipoprotein cholesterol level in patients at the time that they were admitted to hospital with a heart attack. Okay? Now, we are told that increasing the concentration of LDL in your blood will increase your risk of having a heart attack. Okay, if that were true, what would we expect to see here? Well, we would expect to see the number of people presenting with a heart attack going up and up and up and up for every increase in blood cholesterol that we've measured. Is that what we're seeing here? No. No, it isn't. We are seeing a normal distribution. Slightly skewed, sure, but a normal distribution. What that means, if you look at this chart, is that there were far, far, far fewer patients presenting to hospital with a heart attack who had a blood cholesterol LDL level of 220 milligrams per deciliter of blood than those who had 90 or 100. Far, far fewer. That's not what we'd see if increasing the cholesterol further and further and further increased the risk further and further and further. End of discussion. This is nonsense. Okay, so low density lipoprotein cholesterol is not bad cholesterol. Let's have a look at whether HDL is good cholesterol. Okay, same argument applies. What would we expect to see if that was the case? Well, for every decrease in HDL cholesterol as measured in these patients that have presented with a heart attack, we would see an increase in the heart attack. So it would be an inverse relationship to the red one. Again, it's a normal distribution. We're not seeing that. HDL cholesterol is not good cholesterol. It's just another form of cholesterol. They're all good. Actually, all the forms of cholesterol, lipoproteins, are all good. They're all there for a reason. They're all there because they have genes encoding for them. They all serve purposes. Your body knows what it's doing. It does it really, really well. When does your body get thrown off track? It gets thrown off track when you cause your body to become chronically inflamed because of dietary habits, exercise habits, lifestyle habits, environmental toxins, etc., etc., etc. These are the things we need to look at, not trying to mess around with your body and what it does normally and naturally. Just finally on that, at the bottom there in blue, blood triglyceride has also been proposed as a valid predictor of heart disease. Again, if that was the case, we'd expect to see the same thing that we would expect to see in the red graph at the top. We don't see it. It's a normal distribution. Doesn't work for me. Let's move on with some actual science here, people.